It is a gloriously sunny day and we are back out here doing some wildlife photography, and this sun is incredible, but it does pose a challenge for wildlife photographers, especially when it comes to photographing birds against a bright sky. Today that's what we're going to be talking about, especially focusing on black birds, as in a bird that is of a dark colour, and the fact that they can cause even more contrast, especially when they're flying against the bright sky. Today we're going to be talking specifically about how to expose your image, talking about it being over or underexposed and how to combat that. When your camera lets in too much light, that is when it becomes overexposed. Everything can become bright, the whites can be blown out. If it's underexposed, you can lose the shadows, they can become completely black. And the correct exposure is when all detail is maintained, even in the bright and dark areas. So, how do you do that? Now, in this tree behind me, I have a bunch of jackdaws. They're sitting in the branches, and because of the clear sky behind, there's a lot of contrast. So how will we deal with this situation? Now you can see the sky is relatively blue, and that's because the sun is actually behind me. This means the sun's coming directly onto the tree from my direction, which is illuminating the tree, meaning the sky isn't too bright in comparison. In this situation, your camera may expose correctly for the photos. If that's the case, then that's great. If not, you may have to up your exposure compensation. Now, this isn't ISO, this isn't aperture or shutter speed. This is when you're telling your camera to over or underexpose a little bit, and your camera will do that automatically. Now, my camera was performing relatively well. I upped the compensation just by 1, just to illuminate the shadows which we had going on. But here are the photos, and it did pretty well. And the tree behind me, as I said, the sun was in front of me, meaning the sun is lighting up the tree, making it easier. The sun is providing light, which then combats with the light which is coming from behind the tree. However, these trees behind me, they're in shadow because the sun is also behind me. This is when you will get a silhouette, and you really do need to use this exposure compensation to make sure you get a correctly exposed image. There are no birds in front of me as we speak, but if I was going to take a photo of birds in these trees, then I would do that using a +2 compensation. I'd then see how it looked and change it accordingly, because it's one of those things you've got to trial and error. I've just got a jackdaw landing in the tree now. He's gone into quite a shaded area, so I can't demonstrate perfectly. I'm going to keep watching him, and if he goes into an area where I can demonstrate using the exposure compensation, I will. He's just flying overhead and gone into a hole, actually, so there's another one there. I'm going to see if I can take a photo for you. And as you can see from this photo, we've managed to maintain the detail and the clarity in the shadows, even though the bird was perched directly in front of the sun. Now, I'm not saying this is a brilliant photo, and I know what you're going to comment down below. You're going to say the sky is overblown. Yes, the sky is overblown because the sun was directly behind the jackdaw. But if you find yourself in that situation and have to take a photo that way, then that's how to do it. Ideally, you wouldn't position yourself with the bird exactly between you and the sun. So, we've taken one where the sun was working with us because it was shining from behind us, and we've done one where the sun is directly in front of us. We've seen how when it's behind us, it's great, and when it's in front of us, we've really got to up that exposure compensation to get a good photo. But what if the sun's at an angle? Now, this is how I normally choose to shoot. This gives you a bit of contrast. It's not just a flat light, but it also means that you can play with the light. You can play with that angle and get some different photos. If you get the light on one side of the bird's face and not the other, the shadow, the contrast, but also you have that good lighting without the sun getting in the frame. Now I can see there's a jackdaw perched on top of a post. He's preening, and I'm going to take a photo before it's too late. I'm going to pop you down as I talk. Now, the jackdaw is against almost a clear sky, but the sun isn't directly behind him. So I have my exposure compensation on 1. I'm just going to take a photo. Now, that's relatively good. I'm going to up it just 1 more. My shutter speed is on 800 in case the bird flies off, and my aperture is on 6.3. My ISO is on 100. Now the bird is preening, so I'm going to wait for him to pull a pleasant pose. And the bird did fly off, but here you can see the sky, even though it is a clear sky, is not overblown. And if I zoom into the bird, we still have clarity there. I'll put it up on the screen in full so you can see it. Now that jackdaw was back here. It is still with the sun being relatively in front of me, and when I said about shooting from an angle, that isn't really the ideal angle I'd shoot from. This would be my ideal angle. You can see how the sun is lighting everything up, but on this tree, for example, we've got a bit of contrast. There are shadows, there are lights and darks, but the sun is lighting it up nicely. The sky is relatively blue because we don't have a bright sun, which is making it completely white. As opposed to if I show you over here, you'll see the sky is completely white. Even though most people would assume the sky doesn't change colour or brightness, it does. Depending on where the sun is, if it's in your frame or not, the sky's brightness does change, so keep an eye out for that. I'm waiting for a jackdaw to fly across. I'm thinking in flight. For this one, I'm going to up my exposure compensation to 1.5. I can't actually do 1.5, so I'm going to do 1 1/3. And my shutter speed is on 800. My aperture I'm going to up to 8. That means that even though the bird's moving fast, it should be kept in focus. My ISO is on automatic. Now we just need a bird. And we got some pretty cool photos. We got some photos of them flying through the sky. I got a photo of a crow chasing one, although I didn't think that one turned out very well. And we got a photo of a jackdaw landing in the field with its wings spread, and the sun was lighting it up from the front. It looked great. I'm still here looking. If anything else comes, I'll still take a photo, but tell me in the comments below, how do you find photographing birds against a bright sky? Is it something that you struggle with? I'm actually making this video because of a comment, and I love hearing what you guys struggle with or just want to explore, and then I'll come out and explore it for you, teach you what I know. That's what I'm here for, to spread my joy and my knowledge. Pop any questions in the comments below, like and subscribe, and today, if you're interested, I've been using the Canon 7D Mark II and the Sigma 150 to 600mm lens. The Sigma 150 to 600mm lens is linked in the description. It really helps the channel out if you want to purchase it, to do it through that link. The Canon 7D Mark II, sadly, is not available to buy new anymore. However, you can buy it secondhand, and if you want any help with that, DM me on my Instagram at Toby Wood Photo. There you can also find a bunch of awesome photos. Now, one thing I haven't touched on is spot metering, and that's something which some people talk about when it comes to taking bird photos in the bright sun and birds in flight against a bright background. It's something that I personally haven't explored myself, so I will make a video on it, assuming the sun sticks around. And if you want to see that, hit that subscribe button. It's been a great one. I'll see you in the next one.